Hello and good morning. I'm going to show you in this video today how to set up your wood frame action set so you can do batch processing. So let's start by opening an image in Photoshop. Let's go now to the window menu and select Action so you can open your Actions panel. And there you see the wood frame action set. If you click on the side, on this triangle by the side of the folder, you will open the action set so you can see the individual actions right here. The one in the bottom is the one that we're going to adjust today so you can do batch processing. The trick in order to do batch processing, and not only for my action sets here, but for any action, is basically not allowing that action to request input from you, like in the form of values that you need to set, or if you have stop dialog boxes like we have in this action. So if you remove all those requests, then the action will flow completely from start to finish without stopping, and then you can just do processing every single time and it's perfectly fine. So the trick to do here is not working on the original one. So in order to do the adjustments, let's work on a copy. So if you drag the action into the notepad icon at the bottom of your actions panel, you will create a copy. So now you can rename this action in order for you to see or remember later on what is this action doing, so you can do later on your batch processing. So for today, I'm going to set up this action so it creates narrow mat boards and wide frames. So let's double click on the name and let's type in narrow mat boards and wide frames. Click enter, and then you have your action ready to go. Okay, let's open the action so we can see the individual steps that the action is including here. If you see a lot of this, there's many steps involved in these actions, okay? So on this column, the second column from the left, you have these little icons right here, these little boxes that are like with 3 dots in the middle. Those boxes are boxes that when the action reach that particular line, the action will stop and display either a warning dialog box, like in the case of this stop instruction, or in the case of canvas size, for example, it will open the canvas size window, so then it will allow you to input your own values. The trick again is to remove the stops and remove those input dialog boxes. But now that we're going to set up this action for our own needs, we need to also adjust all these canvas size steps, as well as the hue saturation adjustment that we have at some point in the action to do it on the frames. So we have our customized action ready to go whenever we need. So the first thing that we need to do is just find where's a line that has these little icons right here, okay? If I scroll down, the first line is this stop. Okay, now in order to see what this stop is about, we can just click the play button. The play button, it will then run that line and it will tell me, okay, now on the next step, we need to input what is the value for that space in between the image and the inner mat board, as you have done in the other action. I will click stop, and then before I continue, I'm going to remove 3 things. I'm going to remove the 2 icons on the column, so then Photoshop doesn't display any dialog boxes, and I'm going to remove the check mark on the stop line. The check mark tells Photoshop if it's going to run or not that particular line. Maybe if I not remove this check mark, what it will happen is when you run the action will stop. It will not tell you why, because there's no dialog box right here, because we have also removed that little icon, but you need to remove this little check mark, so then the action runs flawlessly. Okay, so then the final step on this particular area of the action is to change the values of that canvas size to the values that I like to use. So if you remember, I will double click canvas size in order to edit the input of this particular line, and I would like to say that I like a very narrow space in between the image and the first mat board. So I will do 10 and 10. Remember, you need to input same values and your units need to be pixels, okay? I will click OK. So now we have done that step. If you see, now the Photoshop is ready to run the action from the top. That's why the name of the action is highlighted. We're not going to stop here. We're going to go down and find the next line that has one of these icons for the warning dialog boxes. So again, it's a stop. Most of the time you will have stop followed by a line that we need to edit. So again, three things. We need to remove the two dialog boxes icons right here and the check mark for the stop line. Now finally we need to set what is that canvas size for the inner mat. And I would like to have a low value here because remember my action, I'm going to make it so it makes narrow mat board. So this is the size for the first inner mat. So I'm going to do 30, 30, 30 and OK. Again, by default Photoshop will go all the way to the top. So I need to go down and find the line that has the next stop because that will be the one that has again my icon for the dialog box. Same thing again. Let's click on the stop and then let's play. So now this is the size for the outer mat size. So I will click stop. Three things. Remove the two icons for the warning and dialog boxes and remove the check mark for the stop. Now that I have removed those, I'm able to change the value for the canvas size. If you have not removed this icon and then you double click on canvas size, change the value and click OK, Photoshop will do one thing. It will not remember the value that you just input because you have left this icon right here. So it's not going to remember because next time that you run the action, Photoshop will wait for you to input a value again. So that's why before you double click the canvas size line, you need to remove the icon from the column right here. So now I can double click and this is going to be now the size for my outer mat board. So let's do 50. So I'm going to just do 50 and 50 and click OK. I go all the way to the top. Same thing. I need to go down and find where I have my next set of icons on this column. And of course, it's going to be on the stop line one more time. Let's select the stop line to see now what I'm going to change and let's click play button. So now this is the size for the inner frame. Okay, let's stop. Three things. Remove the two icons for the dialog boxes. Remove the check mark for the stop line. Now I can edit what is going to be the size for my inner frame. Double click canvas size and I'm going to do 80 because I want to just have a wider frame than the mat board. So I will click OK. We go all the way to the top. Now you need to go kind of fairly, not all the way down, but because now action is technically preparing all the frame, I will keep going down and down, just trying to locate one of those icons that I need to remove. If you don't see it, you don't have to do anything on the lines. These are all instructions that they are set to make the frames. Okay, there we have the next stop with its icon here for the warning window. So I will select the stop, I will click play, and this will tell me, okay, now on the next step, you will need to set the hue and saturation if you want to change it for the frame that you just created. So I will click stop and see the next line, it actually doesn't have, well, actually here it has the hue saturation. It's not a canvas size, it's not something else, it's just the hue saturation. Same thing that you need to do is three things. Remove the two icons for the stop and the hue saturation window, remove the check mark from the stop, and now if I decide to change the hue saturation, I can do it. I always like, maybe to play with a lower saturation, so I will go -50. I will click OK. Since you are not running actually the whole action, you can tell right now that my image has desaturated a bit. It doesn't matter, but you need to have an image right here in order to do the adjustments on this action. Otherwise, Photoshop will tell you there's no way to change such and such, because there's no image that I can apply that change. So really, I'm opening an image in Photoshop just to be able to adjust the action, although this is not exactly the result that you will be seeing when you run the action. Okay, one more time. Photoshop brought me to the very first line of my action, so I need to scroll down in order to find in the second column one of those icons that I need to remove one more time. So I will go, and here it is. 2 stops. The first one, I will click play, and this is going to be a warning that tells you that Photoshop has already created a single frame, and click OK if you're done. So I will click stop because I know that I'm going to do 2 frames. I know that I can just simply remove the warning toggle switch right here, and I need to remove this check on the stop line. Okay, remember, otherwise when you run the action, Photoshop will stop and you will not be able to continue running the batch on your images. Okay, the next stop that we have right here, let's click play to see what the action is going to tell me. Okay, so now we're going to set the outer frame size. I will click stop, same as before. We need to do 3 things. We need to first remove the icons so Photoshop doesn't display any dialog boxes, remove the check mark from the stop, and finally then I can change the canvas size that is going to determine the size of my outer frame. So let's do 100 because I want to have wider matte frames, and I will click OK. I'm going up all the way again, and I think there's only one more that we need to change. So let's scroll down until we catch one of those icons on the second column. And there we are, all the way down. Almost the last line is my last stop of the action. So I will select the stop line and I will click play just to see what the stop is still going to tell me. And this is again to change the hue and saturation value for the outer frame. I will click stop and, as usual, change 3 things. First thing, remove the warning and dialog boxes icons, remove the check mark from your stop, and the last thing is now change the hue and saturation value. So I will double click the hue and saturation line, and then I will go -60 or -50 as we did before on the other one. I will click OK, and now I'm set. I want to show you something. I'm going to go up on my actions panel, and then I'm going to just close the steps from this action because I want to show you something. Remember that we did a copy from the custom frame action mat, which is your original action, and then we did a copy to work on. See, the copy from the original, or I mean the original action, it has that little icon telling you that somewhere on the lines of this on the instructions you have dialog boxes that you need to fulfill by input some values, or warning boxes that it will tell you something is about to happen on the action. The one that we just work on, it doesn't have that little warning. So it tells me that you don't have anything that it will stop this action from running. And now the last thing that you need to do, if you want to, otherwise you can do it manually before you run the action, will be to set up your foreground color and the background color. If you want this action to be exactly when you run, to run exactly with certain colors for the mat boards, this is the way that you do. You open the action, I will select the first line, flatten image, and then I will click the record button. I will click the record button, and then I will select what is going to be my foreground color and my background color. That's the only thing that you need to do. So I will go to my toolbar and I will click on the foreground color icon, and I will change, let's say, to a darker red color right here. And then for my background color, let me say light yellow color, maybe right here. Once you have set those two, the only thing that you need to do is just stop the recording. So now these 2 steps are embedded on your action. So when you run this action as a batch, it will always have the same foreground and background color. So now your action is ready to go. I will close my image without saving because of course this is not the actual result that I want. I will open one more time the image or another set of images, and then let's just try my actions. You can just simply select the action and click the play button. And actually, the action will run and it will set up the foreground color and the background color to the ones that were already preset, is creating the frames, and it will stop all the way through the end at the end of the action. So let's wait, it's creating right now. It just created the first frame, and as you can see, the frame has a little bit of a desaturation on it. You can tell that the action is working on the outer frame that has not yet been desaturated. When it finishes, it will desaturate automatically. So let's wait a little bit. It's almost about to go. And then you can have your images ready to go. So there it is. I have created an action that is now batchable. So you can run it in many different images, and look how beautiful it is. You have a very nice narrow mat boards with wider frames. So this way, this process kind of doesn't work only for my action that you have purchased, but it works for any action that you have. If you have another action that you need to input values, just try to do exactly the same thing. Remove any dialog boxes, remove any check marks from stop lines that you have, and that way when you save it, now you can run your actions. At this point, I may suggest to you either quit Photoshop and reopen again, because until you quit Photoshop, these actions that you have modified get saved into Photoshop automatically. The other way that you could do is just select the folder that has, or the folder set that has all these actions that you have done, and then go to the little arrow right here on the right and select save actions and save them somewhere in your computer. Because if Photoshop by any reason crashes right now or gets or is a problem, you will lose all the settings that you have. So this concludes our video. I hope that you have enjoyed your wood frame actions panel, and I will post more videos doing more fun stuff for you later on. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.